order. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I would ask everyone to please silence their phone. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Faring, Mr. Grody,
Here.
Mrs. Smith, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Westfall.
Here. Okay, we have two of our alternates up here to replace the people, two of the three people who aren't here. So we do have a quorum. Next on the agenda is the approval of the June 19th, 2018 meeting. Does anybody have any changes or additions?
Make a motion they be approved as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
It's been approved and seconded that we approve the minutes of the June 19th, 2018 meeting. Can we have a vote, please?
Mr. Gehring, here. Mr. Grody,
Yes.
Mr. Pace,
Yes.
Mr. Westfall.
Aye. Next on the agenda is a final development plan. We have none tonight. Next is a public hearing on case ZA 2013-0003, Sanctuary Point Nursing Home and Rehabilitation. It's a major adjustment to a preliminary development plan. Does staff have a presentation?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's actually a pretty quick presentation for you this evening. It is essentially a lot split application, but because of the planned district designation, this did need to come through this process to have its approval. And I'll tell you exactly why here in just a second. Sanctuary Point is just over 11 acres located at the intersection of Hamilton and Crest Road in the northeastern portion of the township. It was developed in 2013, and you'll see the nursing, this is looking west across Hamilton Avenue there at the facility that is 124 bed skilled nursing facility with 140 parking spaces and no direct access onto Hamilton Avenue. Both access points are on Crest Road there to the right of that image. This rezoning did take place in 2013. It was rezoned from PDB to PDR to allow for the Sanctuary Point facility to be developed. A couple of images, the concept drawings from this facility when that was developed, the originally approved plans. And then the application before you this evening is actually a lot split, and what this is going to do, the reason it's in front of you is because it will change the density, the overall calculated density on the property, which I believe in 2013 the trustees approved to change the density from a maximum of 7 units per acre up to 10.9 to get the existing facility. When we split this parcel, the request is to split this parcel almost in half, not quite, about a third of it. The residual parcel where the facility currently sits is going to be just over 7 acres. The new parcel is going to be 3.8 acres, as proposed to be 3.8 acres pending your approval. That will actually increase the calculated density on the existing site to 17.5. Units per acre. So this is an increase in density, although not actually any increase in development at this time. Let's see, closer look at the facility here. What you'll notice in the originally approved landscape plan in the this is actually the southwest corner of the site, but we are looking west here. In the top left corner of your screen there, we've highlighted some landscaping for you. This is actually missing from the original development. Staff doesn't feel that this should necessarily hold up the lot split application and the approval of this major modification at this time, but it is something that we are in communication with the applicant about, and I believe that they intend to meet with us out there and make sure that we rectify this issue with what's missing from there. Just some images. That's the existing landscaping again, where it was a little bit more dense to buffer from that neighboring single-family residential. Looking at a couple other views of the site where that is supposed to be landscaped. Staff's recommendation is approval with the following variance and condition. Conditions that, one, that all conditions approved as part of the ZA 2013-03 shall remain in effect for the subject site, including the approved landscape plan. Two, that a major modification to a preliminary development plan be required for any future development on the remaining vacant parcel, and the variance from section 7.4.6A that the proposed development be permitted at a maximum density of 17.5 units per acre, where 7 units is what was originally permitted. Right now it's 10.5 that are permitted. I'm sorry, 10.9. So the variance would be to up that to 7.5. Again, just to clarify, there is no proposed development on that newly created parcel. This is an application would have to come back through a major modification to a preliminary development plan before we saw any future development on that site. Be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Mr. Grody,
None at this time.
do you have any?
None at this time.
Okay. No questions, thank you. Does the applicant have a presentation?
Sure.
Sir.
Evening. My name is Chase Cohn with Sanctuary Point Nursing and Rehab. I think, Mr. Westfall, you're the only person I recognize from my previous.
I was the only one here in 2013. I've been here forever.
Thank you guys for your time this evening. So we are in the process of refinancing our property, and I'll try to explain this in simple terms. We've been refinancing through a HUD-insured loan vehicle, and it's a great opportunity in terms of financing because it's a long-term fixed-rate loan, basically 30 years fixed rate, which is good for our purposes. The problem becomes in the event that we develop that 3.8 acres of land, any development is incredibly restrictive. And by splitting the lot, we would then go out and just refinance the residual lot, leaving still a note on the 3.8 acres, but not being restricted and encumbered by the HUD loan in order to do any kind of development on that piece of property. So that's the reason that we're requesting the variance.
Okay. Any questions? Started?
What is your current level of occupancy in the existing facility?
Our current level of occupancy is in the low 90%.
Okay.
Do you have any referrals that you'd like to contribute to increase that occupancy?
I'm not there yet.
I wasn't thinking you. Just anyone you
Yeah, he and I are close, but we're not there quite yet.
I have a question. It sounds to me like, and I misunderstood when I looked this over beforehand, but it sounds to me what you're trying to do is split out that 3 acres, get any restrictions off of it that HUD would place on you, so that essentially it makes it more marketable for any other purposes. Is that one of the advantages of doing this? Maybe not your stated advantage, but is that one of the advantages of doing this? Do I understand that right?
I would not put it that way. I don't see it as marketable. We're not looking to sell the property. It's a
Okay.
question of what future development we would put on that property and trying to, release any restrictions that we would have on developing that piece of property.
Okay. So
Not to market it, not to sell
not
it.
necessarily to market, but to essentially make it marketable, lease or some other structure on that, so that essentially that income might help offset your overall expense.
It's not about income. It's simply, and don't hold me to this, I realize I'm on the record.
Yeah.
If in 3 years we decide to develop assisted living and we come back in with a development plan and everything and
Okay.
go through that process, we don't want to be restricted by the construction restrictions that HUD places on doing any kind of construction on an existing loan.
Okay. Okay.
That's all there is to it.
Mr. Gehring, if I could jump in very quickly, without this variance, that northern lot is not developable at all, regardless of whether or not it would be sold or under the previous ownership, or under the current ownership, I should say. So just to make that clear, it's not just a marketing advantage. It would actually
And when
just be a
when I use the
development.
term marketing, I mean, it makes it developable, more developable. That doesn't mean they're going to develop it, but it makes it more developable than it is otherwise.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. LeCount, my question that I have for you is, if in the future they want to develop that 3.82 acres, are they limited to a single-story structure, or could they can always submit an application for it, but would they be limited to a single-story structure?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't have the original resolution in front of me right now to know whether or not that was restricted. But what would happen is they would be in for a preliminary development plan. So they'd be all the way at the beginning of the process. They would not necessarily be restricted by anything, a height restriction at this point in time. Our code does not hold them to a height restriction. What they're going to be restricted by is the discussions that are had in that development process. So through the Hamilton County Regional Planning Commission, in front of this board, and then also in front of the Board of Trustees.
Okay.
One other quick question, if I may. Does this set any kind of precedent so that someone else developing in Colerain Township in the future would then come back and say, I want a saturation of 17.9 beds or whatever this is. You did it here, so therefore we want it over somewhere else?
The advantage to the planned districts is being able to look at these on a case-by-case basis and discuss what's appropriate in the market at the time, as well as land use-wise. So, yes, they're going to be able to point and say, look, they have this kind of density, but that doesn't mean that can be used as an excuse for why everybody should have that kind of density.
Can I make one comment about that? And I haven't read your updated development plan for the township, but seeing as we have facilities throughout Southwest Ohio, I mean, it hasn't escaped me that senior living, senior housing has become a very popular development, and it's obviously up to you, to the township to decide, but at 7 units per acre, that becomes very restrictive for anyone that wants to develop something. And I think that given the changing demographics that are hitting our country now and in the next 30 years, that may be something that ultimately needs to be revisited if you want to open the township to those kind of communities.
I understand. I just, I crossed my 70th birthday a couple of days ago. Believe me, I know that the marketability of these kinds of units is only going to increase in the next, I don't know if it's 30 years, 10 to 20 years, something like that. And that was, frankly, the reason for my request. Whether 7's the right number, whatever, I don't know.
Excuse me. Any other questions? I have none. Thank you.
I have one additional thing, and Jenna and I talked briefly about the landscaping thing. I just want to make a point, if I can just bring to your attention something that has been a challenge for us for the last 3 years, and that is the right-of-way on Hamilton Avenue, which I realize is owned by ODOT. I've attempted through your office and directly to ODOT to try to get the right-of-way manicured to look better. I mean, that is the eastern border of the township, and we have, at our own expense, probably on at least twice a year, if not 3 times a year, gone in ourselves and cleaned the right-of-way up, only because, I mean, it's the front of our facility, and it does not look good, especially when we've got, I'm not even sure what to call them, weeds growing above our signage. And I'm going to just plant a seed in your guys' ear to, continue to push to get some assistance, because I think it makes everything look nicer.
Well, thank you. I didn't know who was cleaning that up, but I did notice it's a lot cleaner than it used to be.
And there's,
So, thank you.
And it's kind of hard to get all of it, and
Yeah.
I don't like it. We don't like it. It is the occupants of the property. We've tried. And it's fallen on deaf ears. I'm not sure what can be done. I know we're talking about the state government, but if anyone in your office has any input, we would certainly appreciate it, and I think it would make the township look cleaner. Thank you, guys.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up because I rode out there also. And I don't know if it's part of the state, as you just mentioned, with the right-of-way, but the silt fence is still there from the original construction, and that's more than likely on your property.
The silt fence is, yes, sir.
And that makes it look trashy right from there. The whole silt fence is there all the way down.
I was under the impression we had to leave the silt fence up to keep any runoff into the right-of-way. If you think differently, I mean, we're happy to remove it. I just thought that it needed to stay there to help capture any runoff.
Who would clarify that for them?
We can look into that. That may be a soil and water issue, but I'm not entirely sure. So we can connect on that. And we can also connect on the state right-of-way. There are some beautification efforts going on along some other state right-of-way in Colerain Township, and so we can try and reach out on those connections, and at least, if nothing else, make sure that you're on a regular maintenance schedule. Because
what I did get was that there's a downslope and an upslope. So the downslope starts from Hamilton Avenue, and they manicure the downslope. The problem isn't with the downslope. The problem is with the upslope.
which I believe is still state right-of-way, so.
It is,
Okay,
yeah,
so
you're
that's, we can kind of
Okay.
clarify with that and make sure that there's an understanding of where the property lines
Thank you.
are.
Thank you.
But in addition, there are dead trees out there in that open area. It's just as you drive up, you can, there's dead trees there, just totally dead.
That's all, when you say when you drive, I'm not sure where.
Where you're coming off of Crest Road, drive up, and as you approach your building, there's several dead trees.
There's a right-of-way also along Crest that's not ours.
Nope, this is very close to your building.
Okay, well, I'll have to take a look.
And then, I don't know, I know it's not part of this purview, but the detention pond, I thought those had to be maintained in some way, shape, or form, and it's not. It's not at all. So I'll just be very blunt about it, because persons come to us asking for consideration of this and consideration of that. And I, for one, expect the applicant to be doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, and it's not being done.
I appreciate that. No one's brought to our attention that they didn't think anything, that we were not doing something that should have been done.
Well, you spoke a moment ago about the appearance, of your facility. Well, you're adding to your own poor appearance by not taking care of things.
Well, okay. I didn't see that detention pond is an issue, but I appreciate you bringing it to my attention.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The chair will entertain a motion to open the public hearing. It's been moved. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we open the public hearing. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gehring? Mr. Grody?
Yes.
Mr. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Aye. Okay, the first person on the list is Gene Brockert. We would like you to keep it concise,
Okay.
and we would like not to have repetition.
Can you spell your last name, please?
Brockert, Brockert. I live at 2382 Crest Road, which is directly across the street from both entrances of the development. So, in what I've heard, one thing that concerns me a little bit is separating the property, otherwise it's not developable. Well, it was all expanded already to a density based on the number of acres that they had, so they could get the number of beds that they wanted, and they can't develop it unless it's split. And if they want to put a senior living there later, am I going to have another 120 beds across the street? I'm a little concerned about what that future use is, and I know this hearing isn't about that future use, but we get this ball rolling, and we'll be sitting here in a few years saying, but, and sorry, it's we had to develop the county, you had to develop the township. I do agree with Mr. Grody with the upkeep. We live right across the street with split rail fences with the gardens there. There are a number of trees, and I realize being somebody who gardens myself, it's hard to keep that stuff up. But even the grass, the seed I realize it's very difficult in the clay in Ohio, but I would prefer that they take a little bit better care, especially the retention pond, that area along Crest Road. There's a silk fence maybe 20 yards up into your property that's still there. There's a few things beautification-wise they could improve on. If we split this property also, we had a problem with running water off the property when the development went in. I made the mistake of complaining. Whoever takes care of Crest Road, if that's county, they came in and dug our right-of-way on our side of the street out to where it's almost not mowable now because the water is running across the street. So we'll solve that. We'll just let it run across the street all the way. There's one square drain there, and they built these little culverts to get all the water that runs down that road to go in there. It's fine when it trickles, but when it pours, it comes out on Crest Road, and it's not part of this meeting, but it's something that needs
You'll
to be.
have to talk to Mr. Hubbard about that one.
Is he the guy that's going to come out and dig my yard
No,
up
but
again?
he's the guy that's in charge.
So these are just little concerns that if this is split, then how do we manage this? Because I've lived there almost 30 years. I want to live there till I take my walker up the driveway across the street and give him another patient. But by and large, it's not too bad, but I'm just concerned where it goes from here, and it just gets. I moved into a quiet residential area. Most of the traffic comes up that back driveway. Your job is to keep the quality of life for everyone in Colerain Township. So that's my concern. And if you need to split the property, I can't stop it.
Okay, actually, our job is to control growth and try to keep the kind of community you want, and that's not an easy task.
Oh, I didn't.
Believe me.
I didn't offer to take your job. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. Kevin Hawkins. I see both of you live on Crest Road.
Yes, right next to each other. Basically, a lot of my concerns are the same as his, with the traffic that flows through there, and a lot of it is when we get a heavy rain. I get a lot of water in my driveway from coming across the road. And like you said, they dug up our side of the road, I guess, to try to take majority of the water off the road, but instead of making it better, it just kind of made it worse. You know, so with the new development, will that increase flow of water coming off the
I have
property?
no idea.
Excuse me?
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's not my job. My job is to zone land.
Okay. So that's what this meeting is not. This meeting is not about that then.
I don't believe they're developing the current property right now.
Right now.
Yeah, that is my understanding, is it not?
He said it won't.
Well, when it is the development, will it be in the front or will it be in the back? That's
They have to come back here if they develop it.
okay. All right. Well, that's it then.
Okay?
Sir, you would receive another notification just like you did for this meeting. You should receive one for a trustee meeting coming up here in September if you haven't gotten it already. And then if and when that parcel were to be developed, it's going to have to go back through this same process. So you would receive the same notification to appear at this meeting as a public hearing, as well as a Board of Trustees meeting as a public hearing. This meeting tonight is a recommendation to the Board of Trustees. Okay?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Just so you don't feel alone, I live in a subdivision, and when it rains, water runs down our driveway like a creek. And our backyard, when it stops, looks like a swamp. And that's in a subdivision. So we all have problems. Okay, I'm going to do something which we don't normally do. Does there anybody else that would like to speak? No hands going up. The chair would entertain a motion to close the public address part of the hearing.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that we close the public address part. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Garing, Mr. Grody,
Yes.
Mr. Pace,
Yes.
Mr. Westphal.
Aye. Mr. Grody, do you have any comments you would like to make?
No, none at this time.
Mr. Garing, do you have any?
I have one question, if I may. Okay.
Go for it.
If we split these parcels, it appears that the retention pond is would be on the separate lot. Is there anything legally, because that's the retention pond for the water that was displaced by the asphalt, the buildings over in this first parcel. By splitting these, do we do anything legally that would require or not require the maintenance of that retention pond, or affect it in any way if there is a new development?
So I'm not an attorney, so I can't give you a legal response. However, this is all still part of the same development plan. So if and when they come in for the development of a separate parcel, it is taken into consideration with the entire development.
So they would have to, if in fact they want to pond that, what is now that retention pond, they would have to replace that either underneath or some other.
That would be something that would be examined at the county level with the appropriate agencies doing that. And in a major modification to a preliminary development plan, all of those plans are sent out to all of the appropriate agencies outside of this office for their review. So they would have an opportunity to comment on that.
That's the only question I have.
Do you have any questions?
I do have one question for the applicant. What's your timeline for financing right now if this is approved tonight?
Probably after the first of the year. The HUD process is
So you come up here, please.
we put together an application to HUD, and we submit, and it's 120 to 150 day process for them to approve it, and then roughly 30 days to close. So you get a commitment in 120 to 150 days, and then 30 days to close.
Okay.
Can I go back and ask one other question?
Sure.
I mean, and this may be more of this may be a legal question for you. Sorry about that. If we split these parcels, okay, is it conceivable that in fact they could not sell but bequeath, transfer this parcel within their corporation to a separate corporate entity that would in any way alter the requirement or the rights of their original PUD? In other words, Children's Hospital, for instance, okay, what I'm familiar with, there's over 200 corporate entities. Each one legally is recognized as a separate person, as it were. Could they, in fact, take their corporation, create a separate entity, which many organizations do of this type, holds their real estate, create a separate entity for just a separate parcel, have that in the future, if that entity were to go bankrupt, does it in any way affect the PUD, or does that revert back to the overall?
Ownership is irrelevant to this discussion. Who actually owns it is irrelevant to this discussion. The variances that are granted have to do with this land itself. The details of a development plan are of that development plan and not.
And what they do with it?
They don't go away if the owner goes away.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have another quick question.
Sure.
So the landscaping issues that have been brought up thus far, what is the timeline as far as for them to kind of make the changes necessary, or is there even?
If we were to issue a notice of violation, which I don't believe that we're going to need to do because we do have communication with the applicant and they have committed to working with us through this, I believe that is a 60-day violation, meaning if we were to just issue an NOV, they would have 60 days to correct it before we issued any sort of court action. Our goal is always compliance when it comes to enforcement. So I'm sure that we can avoid that. I would have to actually look into. It's either going to be a 21-day or a 60-day compliance. But as far as the way our office manages that, if I have a property owner that is working with me, we can adjust those timelines as appropriate. So it's not always a strict 21 or 60 days, but we're somewhere in that range. And so if I have communication from them and what to me seems like a solid and appropriate timeline for them to get this corrected, we won't issue an NOV.
I have one other question. So, in the letter that you sent to the trustees, you say, "We believe we have been good neighbors and we look forward to working with the Zoning Commission and Township trustees." How long do you think it will take you, just in good faith, to fix the landscaping issues that have been brought up today?
Well, again, so having been occupying the property really for 3 years and just learning about the landscaping issue at the southwest corner of the property, number one is I have to see I have to see about the availability of the flora and fauna. You know, that to me seems like the first question I have. You know, if I remember when we done other projects, we haven't had the plants available initially. So if we have to fill it with those plants and they're not available, that's going to be our hang up. Otherwise, I don't see it. I see it well within the time frame that Jenna has indicated.
Thank you.
I only have one comment on this. Hamilton County, from the county engineer, Mr. Hubbard, it says the locations of the existing driveways do not meet the Hamilton County access management regulations. What is wrong with them?
That I don't know.
Okay,
I have not specifically reviewed his letter.
okay. I just wondered,
I don't know if what that means is when they come forward with a development plan, they may be required to do a traffic analysis or something of that nature based on the layout of those entryways. But I don't.
yeah, because they're both off of Crest, because there isn't any off of Hamilton Avenue.
And I think that was specifically decided
Right.
in the last development planning process. So my assumption is that because they don't know what the new density might be or what might be proposed there, what kind of traffic might be generated from that, they're kind of withholding and saying, you know, you can't meet, we don't know whether or not you're meeting.
Okay. I just
But
wondered.
that's going to be facilitated through their office, and again, when a development plan comes through, their office will be sent the information as well and have the opportunity at that time for them to take a closer look at exactly what's being proposed.
Okay, thank you. I just wondered. It looked okay to me. Are there any other comments? Chair would entertain a motion to accept case ZA 2013-0003, Sanctuary Point Nursing Home and Rehab, as stated with the variations and conditions that are set forth in the staff report. Can we have a motion, please?
So moved.
A second? I'll second it. Okay, can we have, it's been moved and seconded that we accept case ZA 2013-0003, Sanctuary Point Nursing Home and Rehab. Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Gehring?
Aye.
Mr. Grody?
Yes.
Mr. Pace?
Yes.
Mr. Westfall?
Yes. Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you. Next on the agenda is an informal concept review. Do not have one of those. Next on the agenda is old business. Next on the agenda is new business. Mr. Garrett or Mr. Brody mentioned earlier that he asked if this building is going to be more than one story. I've been on a soapbox a long time about this. We're out of land, we can build one-story buildings. We're going to have to start building 2- and 3-story buildings. I'm sorry, if we want to continue to grow as a township, we're going to have to take that into consideration. And I hope that all of you give that some thought, because we do want to continue to grow. Administration, do you have anything?
Just quickly, and I'll kind of piggyback on your comment here about increasing of density and those types of things. We are working on collecting a committee for the land use plan, which will be the land use portion of the comprehensive plan. I am accepting applications until this Friday at 4 p.m., Friday the 23rd.
Fourth, I think.
Thank you. Sorry, 24th, 4 p.m. To kind of comprise a committee of 7 members of the community to kind of go through and talk about different appropriate land use policies throughout the township. And so this is a topic that will be discussed in those meetings with amongst that group, and begin to talk about how our policy needs to be updated, our land use policies need to be updated, which will eventually turn into an updated discussion on zoning resolution as well. So very relevant, very timely discussion for what we've got going on the long range end of things.
I'm sorry to keep harping on it, but
it's an appropriate conversation to have, and it is something that is very relevant to Colerain Township, and we've always been very averse to density, and we need to start having some real conversations about what are our real concerns and what are the benefits or disadvantages to increasing density. So we're going to start those conversations here over the next several months.
Thank you. Any announcements?
I don't think so.
The next meeting is September 18th, 2018. Do we have cases or? Okay.
So. You always ask me this at the end of meetings.
Okay. We think we're going to have a meeting on September 28th. We will. Okay. The chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Comment.
Yeah, sure.
Mr. Kohler, in his staff report that he prepared, on the very last page, he said he had done some studies just quickly of other townships and their densities for this type of a project. Should we be considering some sort of amendment to our language, since we seem to be very low on that end, or should we look at something?
Short answer, yes, I think we should. I think that needs to happen in a more comprehensive conversation about land use overall, and so that's what we're starting with the land use plan. There are a lot of things that we could kind of have these sidebar discussions and make updates, but I think the idea is that we want to make sure that we are looking at our zoning resolution much more comprehensively and based on policy guidelines that come out through essentially the Board of Trustees, if that makes sense. So the short answer, yes, but as part of that larger conversation.
Okay, I agree with it, because I think just for the number of years I've been on this commission, it seems like we get constantly picked apart. They don't want to follow the rules that are existing now. They always want a little bit more and a little bit more. If ours aren't adjusted properly, then maybe we need to adjust them and then hold fast to them.
Sure, and well, I mean, we are absolutely in need of an update. Our code is from before the recession. A lot has changed just with that recession, our housing market, development in general. So, all conversations that need to be had, and a lot of different pieces to that need to be explored.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we adjourn. Do we have to have a roll call for that? All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, same sign. Adjourned.